Hello and welcome to episode 246 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Evan Silva, and today is a beautiful day because we have actual regular season football games and player usage to review. No more beat writer speculation, no more beat writer conjecture, no more nonsense, actual football. Evan, how was your week one? What's happening?
I think it was mostly positive. I think that it was not a great week one for the beat writers. There were a lot of misses by the beat writers, or things that they overlooked, or things that just the coaches did differently than what they showed in practice. And so we were led astray in some respects. But hey, it makes it more fun, and now we got to react to that and use the information and be Bayesian in our process. And as more information spills in, we adjust appropriately.
Yeah, I actually did about 5 minutes about this whole beat writer information thing on the solo pod, which came out this morning. So you guys can, or this afternoon, so you guys can go back and listen to that. I have some takes in there about that. But yeah, we'll get to the San Francisco stuff here in a minute. On today's show, and each Tuesday evening this season, Evan and I are going to go team by team, highlighting the most important things we saw from a fantasy perspective in week one and key takeaways. I think this is a really useful exercise. Hope you guys find value in it as well. Before we get into the show, two things. First, if you have not subscribed to our in-season package yet, you are missing 95% of the content that we put out each week. Silva's matchups, our projections, ownership projections, all our shows, premium pods, all the content. We do have weekly and monthly options up on the site right now. Check that out on the subscribe page. Second, this show is brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks.com. You guys know me. I am deep in the player prop streets right now. PrizePicks is essentially a DFS platform that specializes in player props. They already have their props up for week two, which is absolutely insane. In other words, they're originating the market, which means we should be able to pick off some really soft stuff. I think we're posting a table each week to compare ETR projections with the PrizePicks lines. If you want to try them this week, they do have 100% instant deposit bonus up to $100 if you use promo code ETR, or use the link in the show notes. Again, promo code ETR at prizepicks.com. All right, Evan, let's get into it with the NFC. Arizona played really well, man. I thought Tennessee would win the game. Arizona goes to Tennessee and plays extremely well. From a pass catcher perspective, Rondale's usage was good when he was on the field, which we expected. We talked about that, but he wasn't on the field a ton. Only 14 routes on 36 Kyler dropbacks for Rondale Moore. Christian Kirk, 23 routes. AJ Green, 32. DeAndre Hopkins, 35. Any thoughts for the season-long people on Rondale right now, and what you see out of the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, they are going to have to boost this usage for not only Rondale Moore, but also for Christian Kirk, because AJ Green, it's just a continuation of last year, just extreme inefficiency. I know that they want to have the trusty veteran out there, but these other guys can make plays, and they deserve to play ahead, or at least be featured in the offense more than AJ Green. I cannot believe that I missed the getting the total on this one, because with 18 minutes left in the game, it was at 51, and we needed 51 and a half, 52 and a half.
And it landed
to get
51.
over, and there was not another point scored for the rest of the damn game. Like a field goal would have done it. They used Chase Edmonds as the lead back and James Conner as the closer. They had this just like 11-minute march to kind of seal the game, and I expect that to remain the case going forward.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds, very clearly the pass down back. 100% of the running back targets went to Chase Edmonds. I was encouraged by Chase Edmonds' usage for sure. Rondale to me is a tough start with this usage. I mean, 14 routes on 36 dropbacks, but man, Kyler is going to have an absolutely massive year. They're going to play so fast and so spread. Exciting win for the Arizona Cardinals.
I think it's going to happen for Rondale. It's going to take a minute.
Yep. Atlanta Falcons. Maybe the biggest egg that was laid in week one, and we'll get to the Jaguars and we'll get to the Packers. But man, not only we had so much optimism around Arthur Smith, and then, my God, they come out with like some run-centric approach. I mean, they were down like 13 points in the fourth quarter, just running the ball on 1st and 10. They had one of the lowest pass rate over expectations in the entire league in week one. And so we got a decent game from Mike Davis. I thought his usage was pretty good, ran a route on 87% of Matt Ryan dropbacks. But Calvin Ridley was disappointing. Kyle Pitts' usage was good. Results weren't there. Still 22.8% target share for Kyle Pitts. Really good slot or wide 37 times. Really good for Kyle Pitts. But man, two concerns. Arthur Smith, maybe not as pass-centric as we thought he would be. And B, maybe Matt Ryan is just like on the way to being dusted. What did you think of this ugly Falcons loss?
Yeah, Arthur Smith was also doing dumb stuff like punting on 4th and short. That's a little bit concerning. I think that the interior of the Falcons offensive line also just got collapsed by Javon Hargrave in particular. And Matt Ryan finished with like 164 yards. It's his lowest yardage total since like 2018 or something like that. Really tough out of the gates. I think that Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts are going to be okay eventually, but that obviously was a discouraging opener.
They do play the ultimate pass funnel in the Tampa Bay Bucks in week 2. In other words, Bucks are extremely, extremely stout against the run. Everybody's game plan against the Bucks is to throw. I hope Arthur Smith gets his head out of his ass in time for that Bucks game on Sunday. Obviously, I still like Calvin Ridley. Still love the way Kyle Pitts was used.
They also had Russell Gage out there just running wind sprints, just like playing 10 on 11. This is why they should have really tried to figure it out with Julio, I think, because I mean, you're taking one when you're running Russell Gage out there playing 80% of the snaps, drawing 2 targets and just doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they're drawing dead to win the Super Bowl regardless. But yeah, regardless, I agree with you. Russell Gage is just a mess. Okay. Carolina Panthers, good opening win. They win the Sam Darnold Bowl over the Jets. I think the final score made it seem closer than it actually was. And honestly, Carolina's defense, I think, has a chance to be really underrated this year. Like, they can rush the passer a little bit. I know they added the cornerback in round 1. So I'm a little bit optimistic about Carolina as a whole. You guys already know who've been listening. I'm extremely optimistic on Sam Darnold. Thought he played reasonably well to good. Terrace Marshall, usage was as expected, 27 in the slot, 24 routes on 36. Darnold dropped back 17% target share. So yeah, it was pretty much as expected for Carolina. And I mean, Christian McCaffrey, just if you got the number 1 pick and you got Christian McCaffrey, especially in full PPR, it's just such a huge advantage. Dude didn't even score a touchdown. Didn't even get the 100-yard bonus on DraftKings and still had like 28 or 29 points. I mean, it's so insane what you see out of Carolina.
Yeah, the offense is just specifically designed for Christian McCaffrey to eat, and he's going to continue to do that. I guess the question is, should we be concerned about Robbie Anderson, who had 3 targets, saved his day with a 57-yard touchdown, but, Christian McCaffrey coming back, Terrace Marshall added to the offense, is that going to end up eating into Robbie? Now, the Panthers did give him a big extension before at the end of training camp. And so it's not like he's not part of their plans anymore. But I mean, there are a lot of dudes now to get the rock to. McCaffrey foremost among them. He wasn't there last year. Now he's there this year. Someone's going to get hurt.
And I mean, they just have a lot of good players. That's why I was optimistic about Darnold. They just have so many good offensive weapons, and they have Joe Brady. I think it's going to be a bit variant. DJ Moore's route tree looks safer than Robbie's at this point, but that was really variant last season. I'm hesitant to draw any conclusions there from game 1. Chicago Bears played on an island game Sunday night, and predictably, Andy Dalton gave them 0.0 chance to win. The question everyone wants to know, Evan, is when are they going to Justin Fields? They are home versus the Bengals next. Then they will play at the Browns. What are you hearing there in Chicago about going to Fields, and anything else on the Bears that you saw?
Yeah, the guys here think that maybe Justin Fields isn't comfortable in the offense yet, or I don't know. I mean, they're just trying to come up with reasons that Matt Nagy would not be playing Justin Fields, even just in the couple of snaps that he played on Sunday night. The offense just looked better immediately, right when he went in. I don't know why they're doing this. I think it's ridiculous, but I think that it's going to end sooner rather than later. I thought it might end late in that game, but even late in the game when they were down by multiple scores, they were still trotting Andy Dalton in out there. They wouldn't even give Justin Fields the final few minutes. Mm-hmm. So they're being very stubborn about this at this point. I think it has to change, whether it be week 2 against Cincinnati or week 4 against the Lions. Those are both home games. I don't think you want to do it week 3 at Cleveland, but I mean, it's got to happen somewhere in this first month window. It's crazy.
Yep, for sure. Speaking of crazy, Dallas Cowboys play a absolutely wild game in the opener on Thursday against the Bucks. Was maybe the best game of the whole week. And man, two big things I saw. I mean, first, a lot of panic around Ezekiel Elliott. You know, and Evan, you've been vocal that you think Tony Pollard is a better player than Ezekiel Elliott. Certainly, Tony Pollard would have been a better matchup. I mean, ramming Zeke into the interior of Tampa Bay's defensive line is just, I mean, he was drawing stone dead. So I don't want to give up on Zeke just because he couldn't run against Tampa. No one runs against Tampa. That said, I didn't think he looked great. Second thing was Michael Gallup going down. He's going to be out, I believe, 3 to 5 weeks. Clear backup is Cedric Wilson. Cedric Wilson came on for 34 snaps, 24 of them in slot. I just don't think you can give Cedric Wilson as big of a target share as Michael Gallup had. So at this point, Lamb and Amari Cooper, I mean, my God, these guys are going to go absolutely nuclear. Yeah. What do you see out of Dallas? What do you think about Cedric Wilson as a pickup? And what do you have to say to Zeke owners?
Yeah, I think Cedric Wilson is a really good pickup. If you look at just the 5 games that Dak Prescott has played start to finish under Mike McCarthy, he's got at least 39 attempts in 3 of them. I'm sorry, he has at least 39 attempts in all 5 of them, and he has 3 of them with 57, 58, and 58. So they are very, very willing to let him sling it. I don't think he's 100%. I think that his velocity and his arm strength are not quite back to where they were at his peak, but I think that will come. And still they're letting him go out there and sling it 58 times in an individual game. And he looked great. I mean, he didn't need to be throwing the ball with 100% arm power against Tampa Bay. His playmaking ability, his feel for the pocket. I mean, he is a baller, and he was really, really impressive, even despite being against a really good defense, even despite being not 100% in that game. Yeah, I would say that Ezekiel Elliott is better treated as a buy low than anything else, because the Cowboys have a really favorable schedule upcoming. It is the Chargers in week 2 with a 55-point total, and then it's a bunch of scrub teams that they can absolutely have neutral to positive game script with. I didn't think that Zeke looked great on Thursday night. But I do think that there are definitely better days to come. The game plan was great by Dallas. I think that is encouraging in and of itself, that the game plan was so smart and savvy that they would have beat the Super Bowl champs. Upset. They were the biggest dogs of the week when that Thursday night game kicked off. They almost won, and they would have won if Greg Zuerlein wouldn't have left 7 points on the field. So these people saying that, the Cowboys game plan wasn't smart because they didn't run enough, just total donkeys. It's really bad. That's horrible analysis.
Dallas led the NFL in pass rate over expectation. We just tweeted out the graph that we have there. I mean, they had the right plan. Kellen Moore is an absolute boss. So, yeah, I mean, I loved what Dallas did, and certainly better days ahead for Zeke, at least in the touchdown department, for sure. Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift. I understand that Jamal Williams is going to play a lot. If DeAndre Swift is going to run a route on 70 to 80% of Jared Goff dropbacks, and DeAndre Swift's going to have a 19% target share, and this team's going to be losing so much, he's going to have a really good year in PPR. And there's going to be some ups and downs when you're relying on catching so much, but this is kind of like the Alvin Kamara role, albeit on a much, much worse team. What do you think of Swift's usage, and what do you think of the Lions? They almost won the game. I mean, they had a chance to win the game late.
Yeah. I don't know. Crazy stuff happens at the end of games when, you throw out the game plan and you just start going balls to the wall. That's why betting under sucks. But this one really, really hit the over. They are going to be playing from behind. I thought that Penei Sewell, they moved him over to left tackle. He played really well. He was terrible at right tackle throughout the preseason. That's good news. Maybe when Taylor Decker comes back, he'll play right tackle going forward. I mean, he already got his left tackle paycheck, so he shouldn't have anything to complain about. I don't know. I still think it's a bad team, but that can work in the favor of DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and I said on the Friday night show, I thought Hawkinson was one of the guys who could catch 7, 8, 9 balls, and I mean, this is going to happen a lot. For their wide receivers are so bad. Like, how can you not give Swift, Jamal Williams, and Hawkinson a ton of the target share?
Yeah. Tyrell Williams got a concussion too.
Yep. In the protocol is Tyrell Williams. So I mentioned Atlanta as an egg. I mean, Green Bay, what in the hell happened to the Green Bay Packers? I mean, this was such a bad blowout. They pulled their starters in the third quarter. Now, the Packers are home against the Lions next. I don't even have any usage stats or anything on Green Bay because they barely even played. They only played half the game. What do you think happened to Green Bay? How optimistic are you they can rebound against the Lions this week?
Well, Sean Payton put on a master class in game planning and manufacturing offense. But I mean, the problems with the Green Bay offense, they were long. I mean, it seemed like Aaron Rodgers. I've been driving around, listening to sports radio at times. Embarrassing to admit, but still, it's funny to listen to what the people have to say. And the national narrative is that, hey, Aaron Rodgers got the man bun now. He's got this new girlfriend. She's earthy. He's discovered his inner self, and now football is kind of third or fourth on his list of priorities. I don't know if there's any truth to that. Probably not. But I mean, it's kind of interesting to talk about. The Packers do have some issues on their offensive line. David Bakhtiari began the season on reserve PUP. They're starting some rookies up there, and but I don't know. I don't know what got into Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I expected him to have success. Marshawn Lattimore did a great job. The pass rush did a great job. My guess is that it was a fluke. They do get the Lions on Monday night in week 2.
There's a narrative out there also that Aaron Rodgers hates the Packers so much that he's going to, not give his all this year, then go, to the Broncos or, I don't know, the Panthers and try to win a Super Bowl next year just to stick it to the Packers. I don't think that's true, but it's out there. LA Rams. Got this one wrong, man. I thought that Sony Michel would play. I thought that Sony Michel would have, not a big role, but a decent role for the Rams. It turned out Darrell Henderson, 49 snaps. Sony Michel, 3 snaps. Jake Funk, 0. So, I mean, God, I had so much Darrell Henderson after the Akers injury when people were afraid to take him. Then I got scared when they signed Sony Michel. But, D. Hendo with this role is going to ball out. Tyler Higbee, though, was the role we expected. I mean, this was maybe the most impressive usage of the week from a, 8th, 9th, 10th round pick. Tyler Higbee, 52 out of 52 snaps, 26 routes on 27 Matthew Stafford dropbacks, 18 of those snaps slaughter wide, 6 targets for a 23% share. I mean, absolute pure sex from Tyler Higbee. I know you tweeted about that today a little bit. What do you see out of the Rams? And do you think the split between Henderson and Michel is going to continue? I mean, every down back, Darrell Henderson.
Well, I think it was completely logical to expect the Rams to use Sony Michel before the fourth quarter after they traded what amounted to a 4th-round pick for him late in training camp. I mean, that was just logical reasoning. And the fact that didn't happen was and should have been a surprise to everyone. I don't think it'll stick. I think that maybe Sony Michel is still, trying to get comfortable in the offense, and that will come over the ensuing couple of weeks, and probably sooner rather than later. I don't think that the Rams trust Darrell Henderson to hold up physically. But we can't use Sony Michel until that happens tangibly. Tyler Higbee has a chance to be, a top 5 fantasy tight end in this role. And I kind of expect him to be. I mean, he's a baller, man. He's really, really good. And when he's featured like he was against the Bears, he's going to have some really big weeks.
Minnesota Vikings. Oh, one more thing on the Rams. Van Jefferson actually ran more routes than Deshaun Jackson in this game. Just a little note there on that. Minnesota Vikings. One thing I noticed is they went 3 wide receiver a ton, and part of the fallout from the Irv Smith injury was, well, what are we going to do now? We don't really have 2 viable tight ends, even if we want to play a lot of 12. And so they used Tyler Conklin a ton, and they used the other tight ends a little bit, but 3 wide receiver was really their base. KJ Osborne, 81% of the snaps, 18% target share for KJ Osborne. I don't think that's sustainable, but Thielen got his. Jefferson was pretty close to a big game, although the results weren't there in a box score, and KJ Osborne played well. Also, what do you think about Minnesota going forward? Would you add KJ Osborne in some deeper formats?
Yes, in deeper formats. I don't think that there's going to be enough targets for him behind Thielen and Justin Jefferson and Tyler Conklin and Dalvin Cook for him to have these kind of weeks on a regular basis. But hey, if something happens to Thielen or Justin Jefferson, then I think Osborne could be a legitimate fantasy option. the Aegis had a big week one regarding Julio Jones, but they really took it on the chin with Adam Thielen, who can still play.
Yeah, it's just when they get down in the red zone, it's like he's so locked on to Adam
Yeah.
Thielen. And I mean, I have a bet on Adam Thielen, season long bet on Adam Thielen under touchdowns, which is probably just totally dusted already. New Orleans Saints. I mean, what a performance. And, I know people are hand-wringing over Marquez Callaway. Only a 10% target share, which is concerning. He did run 22 routes on 24 Jameis dropbacks. There's some Jair Alexander rhetoric out there, whatever. I mean, Jameis, though, 5 touchdowns. Didn't have a lot of yards, but 5 touchdown passes. What'd you see out of the Saints?
Yeah, this was like, the ultimate Sean Payton game. Alvin Kamara, he's going to be a beast all year, I think. Adam Troutman's usage was surprisingly high. And maybe he can end up becoming a low-end tight end one factor. But, yeah, I mean, what did Jameis Winston finish with in terms of yardage?
Yeah, like 100 and something.
Yeah. So, in those kind of scenarios, like no pass catcher is going to have a big day.
Sure. Yeah, Jameis finished 14 of 20 for 148 yards with 5 touchdowns and zero interceptions. By the way, I mean, Alvin Kamara is like a stone lock to like set his career high in touches, assuming health. I mean, he's going to touch the ball so many times.
Are people going to like start Jameis Winston now because he threw 5 touchdowns?
Probably. He's at the Panthers in week 2. Evan doesn't like that. Let's go to the New York Giants. And Saquon, this is a problem, man. Saquon, I think his health is okay. They eased him in a little bit. The role was decent. Their offensive line is just so bad. I mean, he's just drawing stone dead. And the way he runs, I mean, he'll have some big runs. He'll break like some 60, 70 yarders for sure, just because he's a total freak. But consistency, like success rate on his runs is going to be really, really low. Now they play the Thursday night game against the Washington football team. That's another absolutely brutal matchup for this offensive line, this maligned offensive line. So I'm a little worried about Saquon. Sterling Shepard looked awesome, though. What'd you see out of the Giants?
Yeah, and Daniel Jones, I thought, played pretty well. It's just, again, I keep coming back to it. Like, why was that? It was never even questioned that Jason Garrett was coming back. Like, it's just, this offense is not going to. They're going to contend for the bottom of the league in terms of points scored. Like, that's like assured.
Yeah. I do have a bet, actually, for you guys that are following along with the props. I did make a bet this morning, Sterling Shepard under 61.5 receiving yards against the football team. We have him around 50 in this game. Obviously, I think Sterling Shepard is a very, very good player, and I think that he had a very, very good week 1, but I think that's gotten bloated a little bit. So that's the one bet I have so far for player props. Shout out to the player props team, 8-1 in week 1. So good.
Giants right tackle Nate Solder, who they did not want to win that job. They wanted Matt Peart to win that job. Nate Solder just got trounced in week 1. It's going to be really ugly going up against Chase Young and Montez Sweat in week 2.
Yeah, on a short week. Philadelphia Eagles, impressive performance. They go down to Atlanta, and man, I mean, Jalen Hurts doesn't look like a rusher who can throw, when needed. Like, Jalen Hurts looks like a legit NFL quarterback. Devontae Smith is his clear number 1, 39 routes on 39 Hurts dropbacks, 29 routes for Rager, 19 for Quez Watkins, 12 for Ward, 8 for JJAW. And that was kind of what we talked about on Sunday morning when people were talking about Quez Watkins. We said, hey, listen, we think Ward and JJAW might mix in a little bit. That's what happened to Quez Watkins. I was also encouraged for Kenny Gainwell, man. Boston Scott played 0 snaps in this game. Gainwell 25. And I didn't think that would be the case. I thought Boston Scott would be mixed in there. I think the way they see it right now, Boston Scott is Miles Sanders' direct backup. Kenny Gainwell has the Naheem Hines role all to himself. So I thought that was really encouraging for Kenny Gainwell. I know a lot of people have the Kenny Gainwell best ball shares. Evan, what do you think out of the Eagles' impressive performance?
Yeah, Gainwell came out of this thing. I mean, remember there were like 5 legit RBs on the Eagles roster to begin training camp. Now it's down to like 2 guys that are factors. Gainwell is now all of a sudden one of the most valuable number 2 backs in terms of fantasy value in the league right now. I mean, this is, and I don't think you become like a workhorse or a bell cow in the event that Miles Sanders went down, but I mean, he might become like a 13 to 15 touch per game guy. And this is an exciting rushing offense because their offensive line, man, Jason Kelsey getting out on the move and just hammering guys in the middle of the field. Their offensive line is like legit fun to watch. Nick Sirianni definitely knows how to run a high octane rushing attack. Miles Sanders is looking locked in right now as like a borderline RB1. Jalen Hurts, the ADOT was really, really low. So they're drawing up a lot of high percentage stuff for him. But when he did have opportunities to make plays downfield, he made them. Let's not get too excited, but I'm a little bit excited about those the long shot MVP bets on Jalen Hurts at 100 to 1 and 80 to 1 that we liked back in May or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I mean, just give Jalen Hurts speed and let him get the ball in these guys' hand. I mean, they have a ton of speed on offense right now. All right, we got to talk about the San Francisco thing, man. I mean, this was the fantasy story of the week. I was shocked that Trey Sermon was inactive behind Elijah Mitchell, behind JaMychal Hasty. I mean, there was absolutely no sign whatsoever. Trey Sermon had been running as the number 2 back since OTAs in May. There was no reports of this. However,
running with the first team all preseason.
Yeah. I was maybe more shocked that Brandon Ayuk played behind Trent Sherfield. I mean, Brandon Ayuk was a straight baller last year, and Kyle Shanahan comes out and said, it's his hamstring. He missed a lot of practice time. They had him on punt returns. They had Brandon Ayuk on punt returns. If you're worried about his hamstring, why is he on punt returns? So I don't know, man. Like, the beat writers now are saying that it's going to take a little bit. Ayuk's going to get there, but he's going to rotate with Sherfield a little bit going forward. I mean, this is Shanahanigans, or whatever you want to call it, going back from when I was playing fantasy, going back to like the Terrell Davis and Mike Anderson days and Olandis Gary days when you had no idea who the Shanahan dad, would be starting at running back. So I don't know, man. Do you have any read on what's going on with Ayuk? Any read on what's going on with Sermon? And now we have this Raheem Mostert injury too, which we need to talk about. Raheem Mostert's going to miss 8 weeks now. So go ahead, man. I don't know.
Yeah, Mike Bell, Tatum Bell.
Yep.
Evan Royster, Roy Halou.
Yep. Uh-huh.
The list goes on and on of these RBs that they just juggle around. I mean, yeah, it was definitely surprising. Apparently what the 49ers did, they closed off training camp for the final week or two to reporters, and they were making lineup changes so when the beat writers weren't looking. But the thing is that Trey Sermon could become a factor as soon as this week. Raheem Mostert is out for 8 weeks, and Elijah Mitchell, he should be the number 1 waiver wire pickup absolutely this week. I mean, he's a big play RB. He had 49 catches in college. He ran 4.35. He's smaller, so I don't know if they're going to assign bell cow usage to him for the duration of the season or anything like that, or even if you would hold up under those conditions. Trey Sermon is more built to handle the load, but Trey Sermon is going to be active this week, and things can flip back on a dime. So don't anybody go dropping Trey Sermon or anything like that. And I even think that JaMychal Hasty now should be added off the waiver wire, cheaply. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was a huge surprise, and the Ayuk thing is very discouraging. That I might actually be more worried about Ayuk at this point than Sermon, at least based on the draft capital that it took to get Brandon Ayuk in drafts, because I mean, he was going in the 4th round. Trey Sermon at least was more of like a 7th or 8th rounder.
One surprising thing for me was once Mostert went down, I couldn't believe they didn't use JaMychal Hasty. Like, they just give it all to Elijah Mitchell, and they didn't use JaMychal Hasty at all. And that was weird because I thought JaMychal Hasty could play a little bit. But yeah, and I mean, obviously, we expect Trey Sermon to be up this week, but we'll be watching closely what's going on. If you want more on my take on the beat writer thing and everything, again, check out the solo pod. Seattle. I mean, we expected them to go to Indianapolis and win. Game stayed under barely to salvage for me in the betting pod. Not a lot to say about the way Seattle's players were used. I think Gerald Everett split a lot with Will Dissly, so I don't want to overreact too much to the touchdown there, but Gerald Everett is the athletic guy, is the one that's getting split wide. He's just going to rotate some, is what it is. Anything out of Seattle for you, Evan?
They were just so incredibly efficient in Shane Waldron's first game as Seattle's OC, and that was very, very promising. I thought they didn't have to keep their foot on the gas the entire, because I mean, the Colts really didn't mount a challenge. I mean, the Colts are in bad shape. We'll talk about them on the AFC pod, but yeah, I liked everything we saw from Seattle's offense. Russ Ball and the offensive line looked good against, a defensive front that's got some players in Indianapolis, DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, et cetera, et cetera. The rapport that Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson have developed over the last half decade is it's insane. And Tyler Lockett's ability to make receptions while he contorts his body to grab him, to pull him in, is among the best in the league. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Tampa Bay Bucks, Rob Gronkowski just shoves it right down my throat yet again. 37 routes for Rob Gronkowski, only 14 routes for Cam Brate, and painfully only one pass route for OJ Howard. I don't think they can keep Gronk going like this all year and expect him to hold up for 18 games and be ready for a Super Bowl run, but they certainly wanted him out there for week one. Other storyline was Antonio Brown balling out, man. Antonio Brown, now people are saying, my God, what if Antonio Brown is actually the number one option here? What if Antonio Brown is a better play than Mike Evans on a week-to-week basis? I don't know if I'm ready to go that far yet, but it certainly his gap is closing rapidly. What did you think about Antonio Brown and going forward with Gronk and these wide receivers?
Yeah, the reports about Antonio Brown's crushing it in training camp, they translated into week one. He looked spectacular. He played the third most snaps among the wide receivers. He doesn't play in their 12 personnel, 2 tight end packages. He's the clear third receiver in terms of formationally, but man, he won at all areas of the field. The Cowboys really went out of their way to stop Mike Evans. I think that Mike Evans is like the perfect buy low right now. I think that we should be looking at him maybe in daily fantasy this week, because I think that Tom Brady's going to come back and make sure that he gets fed after the other dudes dominated against Dallas. All the other dudes dominated except for the great Ronald Jones, who fumbled and gave the ball to the other team. And now Bruce Arians is saying that he's going to start in week 2. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we got a good montage up of Evan talking shit about Ronald Jones on podcast from about a month ago. That was good. All right, last NFC team, Washington football team. Unfortunately, I think they were going to win the game, but then Ryan Fitzpatrick goes down with a hip issue. He's going to miss a big chunk of time. Taylor Heineke is in. So tell people a little bit about Taylor Heineke. We have some tape. We have a bunch of tape on Taylor Heineke. He's made NFL starts before. I had that playoff start against Tampa last year and actually played really, really well.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about Heineke going forward and how it relates to McLaurin, Diami, Logan, and all these guys?
And he can run. He's a scrambler. In that playoff game, he fed Cam Sims. Mm-hmm. Cam Sims had over 100 yards in that playoff game. But Taylor Heineke, he's now made 3 appearances for the 2020 and 2021 Washington football team. His YPA is over 7. He's a capable backup. And so I think that Taylor McLaurin, I think that they should be downgraded a little bit, but I think that they can still stay afloat. I think that he's good enough to keep, Logan Thomas in the top 15, top 12 tight end range. And McLaurin is more like a wide receiver 2-3, as opposed to the potential wide receiver 1 that, we drafted him as. Diami Brown played a ton. He was the clear number 2 receiver for Washington. And I know he didn't do anything, but he's going to be out there a lot. He significantly outsnapped Adam Humphries.
Yep. Oh yeah. Cam Sims only ran 1 route in the game. Diami was out there on every single snap. Last thing I'll say about Washington football team, as expected, Gibson lost some pass down usage to J.D. McKissic, but 55 plays Washington ran, Antonio Gibson touched the ball on 23 of them. When he's out there, he is getting fed in both the run and the pass game. So still really optimistic on Antonio Gibson. All right. We've said it all on each NFC team. We'll be back on the next episode with the AFC Team by Team podcast. For producer Luke, for Evan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.